Okay, the first area of herency that we're going to play with is the pivot. Now, pivot is a very important thing. As we can see here, every object has its own pivot, and this is important because objects are controlled via their pivot. So basically how this goes is we select an object, we go to herency, we select pivot, and then we say what we want to do. So what we can do is we can actually move that pivot point. So say affect pivot only, I can actually pick this pivot up and move it to wherever I need it to be. So if you need an object hinging from a certain location, then what you need to do is move its pivot point. So I've moved that pivot point, and now my box hinges from where that pivot point was placed. So if I just undo that, we'll put the pivot point back, we can see where it was hinging originally. So you have the ability to take control of various aspects of your pivot. We can tell it to centralize on the object, align to a particular object, align to the world. See how that just sort of twisted then? Because we can actually rotate this pivot over, and we can have it aligned to the object, align to the world, and accordingly. And what I mean by align to the object is if I had rotated my object, say pivot point only, align to object, you notice it realigns itself to be with the object or the world. So it's very important that we learn how to manipulate our pivot, how to control it, and what it's used for. We can go from affecting the pivot only to affecting the object, and we can move the object around instead of the pivot point. And if it were linked, in this case the object isn't linked, we could affect the herency only. So it's a fairly important tool here, and I'll just reset all that. And here we can tell it to how it's going to affect the child relationship when we manipulate the pivot, and what we're going to do when we reset. So it's a very useful area.